Hey guys, welcome back to another movie review. This evening I am reviewing the movie Friday the 13th Part 2. Now, this movie was released on April 30th, 1981. It is a slasher movie that currently holds a 34% on Rotten Tomatoes, a 92% on Google, and a 6.1 out of 10 on IMDb. This movie had a $1.25 million budget and it made $21.7 million at the box office. And this was the directorial debut of Steve Miner, and this was written by Ron Kurtz and Phil Scuderi. Uh, this movie is considered to be one of the greatest slashers, according to Vegan Voorhees' website. They named it one of the greatest slashers of all time. And this movie picks up right where part one ended. You get to see basically a replay of the ending. Now, this is going to be a spoiler review as well. So, if you haven't seen the second movie, then you may not want to watch this review until you watch the movie. But this one, again, stars Adrienne King, Amy Steele, John Fury, Steve Dasquez, Warrington Gillette, Stu Charno, Tom McBride, Bill Randolph, Walt Garney. Now, Garney plays Crazy Ralph. Adrienne King returns as Alice. And if you've seen this movie, you know what happens to Alice. Amy Steele plays Jenny. And then Jason is portrayed by Steve Daskowitz. And Warrington Gillette plays an unmasked Jason. That's in the third act. And Tom McBride plays Mark. Mark is a gentleman who is in a wheelchair, which we will get to his character here in a little bit because it involves him in my favorite kill. Like I said, this movie picks up right after part one. You see Adrienne King chopping off Mrs. Voorhees' head. She's having basically flashbacks of what happened. She's alive. She survives, of course, and she's in her own place. But we have a new killer who is Jason Voorhees, and he goes after her, and, well, basically he takes care of business. It was sad to see her go so soon, but typically final girls or guys don't typically do a second movie, but she agreed to do a second movie, and of course we know what happens to her, as I just said. But then this movie picks up again 5 years later, and they're at a campsite where it's for counselors in training, but they share the same lake as Camp Crystal Lake, but it is off limits via the sheriff, and anyone crosses over there can be arrested. And we meet a lot of interesting characters in this movie. Ted and his girlfriend. Now, she is mentioned in part 4 of this franchise, which we will get into when we review that movie. But Amy Steele in this movie, not only is she drop dead gorgeous, but she is my favorite final girl in this franchise, and my favorite final girl of all time. She is badass, and in my opinion, Friday the 13th Part 2 is the best in the franchise. A lot of people either say this movie or the final chapter as their favorites in the franchise. But for me, the first time we get to see Jason, he has a sack on his head with the one eye. It is so frightening, and to this day still gets me. There's a scene in the movie where the sheriff or deputy is driving on a back road, And all of a sudden, Jason darts out and runs across the road. And so the cop gives chase and catches Jason, or not catches him, but runs into him into this old house or shack that he's using. He goes in search, goes inside, which if you know Jason, you wouldn't actually do this, but he goes inside. He sees the table with Mrs. Voorhees' skull and her sweater. It's basically a little shrine that he has with candles and everything. And then the officer takes a hammer to the head with the back claw part, and that gets me every time. But is it my favorite kill? No. And we'll get to that in a second. The positives in this film is I love the kills, I love the characters, I love the final girl, the cinematography, the direction, the writing. I love it all. I love this story. And we get just a taste of how Jason's going to be throughout the run of this horror franchise. And the gentleman who plays him is amazing. He's my favorite Jason in the first 4 movies. But we'll get into my all-time favorite later on, though. But he is definitely one of my favorites. And it's just, it's intimidating because I watched this movie when I was a little kid. And so it's intimidating when you're 4 or 5 years old and you're watching this movie. But I loved it. I remember shooting the TV with one of my dart guns and everything. That's just how it was. But yeah, I really loved this movie. The kills in this movie are fantastic. From the guy being upside down, hanging from a tree, and Jason just comes along and just slashes his throat. Another kill is a couple's having sex, of course, and he takes this, I don't know what it's called. It's a long, like, metal piece, and then there's a metal sharp piece at the end of it, and he just stabs right through them while they're in the bed. And that itself takes a lot of strength, and it just goes to show you how badass he is. And then there are other killings that we don't get to see, that they're off screen. Some of them are. And there's a lot of counselors in this movie that don't get killed at all because they're all out for a night in the town, except for the selected few they have to stay behind because 2 of them got in trouble for breaking a rule and the others just decided just to stay behind. But let's get to my favorite kill. Mark. He's in a wheelchair. He's paralyzed from the waist down, as am I. So for those of you who watch my movie reviews and stuff, my angles and everything are going to be just like this. I can't sit up for long periods of time. So that's why I'm doing my movie reviews like this. Besides, I'm only using a tablet to do these movie reviews. I don't have fancy cameras or mics or none of that stuff. Not yet. But I'm still not going to let it deter me from doing my movie reviews and having my channel. So Mark, he's paralyzed. He had a motorcycle accident, but he's bound and determined not to spend his life in that chair. And so he's getting ready to hook up with this girl, and she's very sweet. And so he goes out onto the porch and basically calling her name. And you see him from the backside, and he's just looking around. And then all of a sudden, he takes a knife to the face. I mean, right across his face. And then Jason pushes him down this big old flight of stairs. And yeah, that is my favorite kill in Friday the 13th Part 2. Jason doesn't discriminate when it comes to killing people. And now I've only been paralyzed for going on my 3rd year. But I now know what it's like. And I feel for Mark. Because he can defend himself, but only for a certain amount that he can defend himself with. And yeah, he's the unfortunate one. But like I said, Jason doesn't discriminate. and he took it to him. Uh, so yeah, that is my favorite kill. And then of course the third act of the movie with Paul and Jenny is phenomenal. Now there's been controversy about whether or not Paul lived because there's a sequence in the end where we see Jason unmasked, and we later find out that Jenny was having it was a dream sequence, and that Paul actually does die. So, and like I said, these reviews are going to have spoiler alerts, so you may not want to watch them until you watch the movies. Uh, but of course, Amy ends up surviving, and uh, she is my favorite final girl in this franchise, and my favorite final girl of all time in the slasher movies. Close ones would be Adrienne King, of course, from the first movie. Halloween would be Laurie Strode. And then from Nightmare on Elm Street, uh, you have Nancy as a final girl. And I'll be reviewing that horror franchise next. But Friday the 13th Part 2, hands down, is my favorite in the series. I love the character of Jason. We finally get to meet him, and yeah, I can't say enough about this movie. So, with that being said, I'm going to give Friday the 13th Part 2 a 10 out of 10. It's a rarity that I will give a perfect score to any horror movie, but I love this one. It's one I go to not only in October, but I watch it throughout the year. It is my favorite, and it gets a perfect score, in my opinion. So in the comment section below, please tell me, what did you think of Friday the 13th Part 2? Did you think it was good? Did you think it was bad? You think it's overrated, underrated? I think it's very underrated, and I love, like I said, I can't say it enough, I love this movie. So let me know in the comment section below. If you like this video, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button if you're new to the channel, and share my videos with your family and friends, and let's get talking about movies. And also, I will be reviewing TV shows when they start new here in the fall. I'll be reviewing the TV shows that I watch and some new ones that I have watched this summer in limited series, some of which I'm watching now are Yellowstone, American Woman, and The Sinner. But I will talk about those later on. But other than that, I thank you guys for watching this movie review, and I will see you guys in my next video, which I'll be talking about Friday the 13th Part 3. So till then, I thank you for watching, and check you later.